Good evening and welcome back to the Faces for Autism uh, Friday live stream. You've heard the stories of people that have donated money for to the causes. You've heard the stories from the telethon. We are still taking donations at Venmo, at the Faces for Autism website, the Facebook page, and much more. My guest today is a teacher in the Galloway Township School District. She worked in the autism program for uh, a, a few years at Atlantic County Special Services. So she's been around it, she's seen it, she can give you feedback, and she's also going to talk about uh, how she deals with special needs because it runs in her family as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to have my next guest on the Faces for Autism telephone streaming, Alee Salfrey. Thank you for being here. It is nice to see you because I'm sitting here thinking years.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing. Thank you for having me. I was thinking the same thing that you and I communicate a lot, but in person or through Zoom, I can't tell you. It's been quite a long time.
because because I was thinking I haven't gone to I haven't been in the church in at least God, when was the last time I stepped foot? No, this is a shame. This is going to sound really sad, but I think it has to have been 2 years because there was no cookie sale last year. There was
Right.
no cantata, and they're back to back.
Yes.
So, and I haven't seen anybody.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I was thinking that it doesn't feel like a long time because we do get to talk to each other a lot. But if you think about in person or through Zoom or face to face, it's been a long time.
It's been a very long time, and I said the next time I might go back, I will probably go back to church. Is the service just before Chris retires,
Yes, yes.
and then I'll probably go back to my regular schedule as far as if everything still pans out. But
Yeah.
I can't answer that. Nobody can answer that right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
So, my first question, when I introduced you, I talked about your career. Tell people what was it like working with the autistic population?
Well, working at special services was really a dream come true because I spent my whole life really just adoring my aunt Gina. She actually recently passed away, but I was very close with her and she had Down syndrome. So my whole life I've sort of been really interested in that, in working with children with special needs. And I transitioned from working at a child care center to special services, and it just was a phenomenal experience. I started out not in the autistic program and then quickly was welcomed into the autistic program by some really great educators. And it was just great. I learned so much. I watched students blossom, get the services they need, have communication with their parents. It was a great experience. I truly feel like for everyone involved, the students, their families, and us as educators also.
Yeah, because it it's an eye opener. It opens. Not only does it open the student parent up, the student versus parent that set of eyes, but it opens your eyes as well
Yeah.
on the uh, education paraprofessional standpoint. So,
And I was thinking, Jacob, before we started today, I was thinking that it's a really great experience because I went to behavioral disabilities at a different school district, and then now I'm teaching general education. And I really feel like it's kind of like when doctors go into their training and they have different rotations with different specialties. I really feel like so many people, whether they're paraprofessionals or teachers, would benefit so much from just having these different opportunities with different learners, because you learn these strategies that I can have a general education student benefit from a certain strategy that I've learned with other types of learners. It's just a really great experience.
right? And I'm going to use these two former coworkers of yours. That's what Ron and Kiko said. They said
Hmm.
you had to be ready for anything. I mean,
Yes.
he said there were days he went from the autistic program to group one to like you
Hmm.
had to be ready for anything. And just like you said, you're working in a field where hey, something could benefit you if you're a general ed student that you learned working in
Oh,
the
yeah.
autistic program.
Absolutely. And I think as an educator too, you learn to look at things with a different set of eyes. And like you said, being ready for anything, I have that mindset still, even though I'm teaching general education students. But in certain situations, I might have a general education student who has some sensory needs or who maybe has some behavior needs. Not that they're classified special education, but it sort of opens your eyes to just picking and finding things that you can help these students with.
Yeah, because be- well, you know this, working in the public school system, sometimes, especially like autism, that can come across as undiagnosed or
Hmm.
they don't put it out there or it's been worded a different way or
Right.
yeah. So yeah, so that's I mean, we know how you got started. So uh did you just correct me if I'm wrong, you just recently got started back in education
I
after a long break. I
I
should say a break, but
did.
a long while.
I did. I started this year back in the public school system. I had taken, some time off after Brian was born, and then was working in a child care center, sort of helping like in administrative sort of ways. But recently, which is a real unique year to get back to teaching, started back in public school.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you went from an administrative, and now all of a sudden your first year back, and gosh, how many years? And this is the stuff you get thrown into.
Yes. I think it was a total of 4 or 5 school years that I wasn't in the classroom as a teacher. And I'm like, of course I'll come back during this year. Like that just makes the most sense for me.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's like I'll just tell a quick story. Like special services, they were all ready to bring me back. I was all ready to work the rest of that year in the board
Mhm.
office, and then it went from you have to wait to we don't know if we're even bringing you back to begin
Mhm.
with to. Uh, we think we're bringing you back. It's like
Yeah.
it's gone from do you know we know what's going on to we have no idea to I was just talking to the superintendent secretary and I'm like, should I apply at ACIT too? Because there's an opening over there. I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah. There's so much unknowns, and there's so many different ways of educating kids right now that we have to sort of figure out, who's offering virtual next year. What do parents want? If there's no virtual, what will parents who still not feel safe do? There's so much up in the air, just
Right.
like everything over the past year.
Oh God, yeah. And it's been like, like you said, what do I do if the school isn't offering virtual? And I
Hmm.
listened to the governor, and he said, I really only want to offer virtual learning if I have to. The kids need to be in the buildings. And
Yeah.
hey, I'm a big proponent of that. I think children should be learning in the building.
I do too. I think that teachers did a really good job this year doing the best they can in the situation. But I think there's a small subset of kids that virtual learning is actually better for. But virtual learning has always been an option, just not through the public school system. So I think that if parents are feeling that that's a better option for their student, there are those online academies and things like that. But I really think there's so much, not only academically, but socially, that the kids are gaining when they're in person.
Exactly. Gaining, not only are they gaining, but they're also missing out on. You're
Yeah.
missing out on the socialization. You're missing out on
Hmm.
all the things that are looked forward to and looked
Oh,
upon.
yeah. So many milestones and different activities and stuff like that.
Before I move on to the next topic, were you yourself as a parent, I guess I could say scared to put your kids back in the um, in the school system, barring what's going on?
I have to be honest, I don't know if my decisions were jaded a little bit because I ended up knowing and physically being in the classroom and seeing how safe it was. So I think that helped me a bit, but we weren't too worried, which is funny to say because Brian is in the at-risk population. Um, but I think that we're really fortunate to have a great school and a great school system. And for Ava and her needs, which are not as many as Brian, I know that the kids are far apart. I know that the teachers have gotten really good training in, the safety. And then for Brian, he has a personal aide, a one-on-one aide. So that just made me feel comfortable that there was someone with an extra set of eyes that was going to look out and make sure that like a child didn't come up to him with a no mask and cough all over him or something like that. So I felt
Oh,
comfortable.
yeah, yeah, you got that. Yeah, there's like pros and cons to worry about,
Right.
and I'll get into that more about what you're doing special needs wise in a minute. But yeah, you have that to worry about because he does have issues. He is in high risk
Right.
population. So
Hmm.
am I. If something happens, what do you do? Then you run into, and then as a parent, a million and one things go running through your head.
Yeah, and I think that, like anything else, you have to be so comfortable, and the conversations that we had with the district, they had an answer and a plan for everything, and I think that was what was so comforting to me. So when I said like, well, if Brian needs medication, he has to go to the nurse. What if there's a COVID case going on in there? And they have so many layers of systems and protection that, because they were able to answer me and address all of my concerns, makes it really easy to make a decision to send him in.
Right. And that's nice to know, not
Hmm.
only on an educator standpoint, but on a parent standpoint as
Yeah.
well. That okay, my child will be kept safe during the day because I know A, he has a one-on-one aid, but
Mhm.
B, the nurse has told you, okay, we will make sure that he's taken care of, medicines are distributed, what have you. So there you go. Like like that has to be a reassuring feeling to not only you, but so many other parents out there to go, okay, I know I'll be safe. I know what's going to happen.
Right.
And that's the story.
And I think that, there's a balance between the parents have to ask the questions, and but they also have to trust that they're getting the answers, the truthful answers. And I think in Galloway, as a parent, so not speaking as a staff member, but as a parent, I have always felt that truth and transparency from our district. I will say I know that's not the case in every school district, so it's easy for me to say I trust my district because they have been so trustworthy. But I know, unfortunately, not everybody has that experience.
Exactly. And I think not to make it sound really poorly, not to talk anyone down, because that's not what we're trying to do. But but districts like special services, you see that I've heard that the in-person versus virtual, the virtual wins out right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the complex needs, who needs
Yeah.
what. So
Yep.
yeah, uh, so tell the viewers watching this, just what are you doing as far as a parent with special with a child that has special needs? What are you doing to help raise awareness? Because I know you've worked with us at Faces, so
So just raise awareness for special needs in general, you mean?
yeah, and tell them like what like the programs that you're doing, the fundraising. I know you're
Mhm.
doing 30 days right now for
Yeah.
CHOP. So talk about all that.
So we, after Brian was born, we were at a hospital again, like not something I want to focus on. We were on a hospital that was not CHOP, and he received really life-threatening care. It was so neglectful that when we went to CHOP, we were like shocked about how great they were. Like we didn't even know what we didn't know, and we were like, "Oh, you cleaned that? Oh, you changed that?" And once we saw the caliber of the service you get at CHOP, we knew once we were settled from the upheaval of everything that had happened to us that we wanted to focus on a couple of things. We wanted to focus on just telling our story because everybody's story is different no matter what your kid goes through. But if you are able to hear enough stories from people, you may find bits and pieces from people that you connect with. So just the advocacy piece about just the things that we go through having a child with special needs. And then we knew we wanted to fundraise for people who were very helpful to us. So one is obviously CHOP. We like to support the Ronald McDonald House when we can. And then over Brian's birthday, we've started doing a fundraiser for a company. They're not nonprofit, but they do a lot of philanthropic work, and that's Brave Gowns. And they create fun hospital gowns for kids. So they do donate some gowns, but they are a for-profit business. But we have focused on like those main three areas since for fundraising, since they were so impactful to us.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you want something that will provide impact so that way you can say, they helped me, and if you need help down the road, they may be able to help you. And kudos to CHOP, one of the uh, the either the best or the second best
Mhm.
in U.S. News and World Report when it comes to care. I mean,
Yeah.
you won't get anything better than what you have because these doctors,
And
they know their stuff.
it's funny too because I lived here for years without needing CHOP, and you don't realize what we have in our backyard until you need them. And like you said, they battle out with, I think it's Boston Children's for first and second all the time. But there are specialties that they're always first in, like Brian needs endocrinology, and they're number one in the country year after year for endocrine specialty, you know?
Wow, yeah, and not to talk about myself too much, but in the beginning of all this, I had something going on, and don't get me wrong, my care at Mainland was over the top. Everybody was wonderful, but there, there's just something you wish that Chop would still be able to take
I
me.
know. There is an essence in CHOP, and their little tagline or their motto is hope lives here. And if you've had to use CHOP before, not just as a visitor, when you walk in there, you get that feeling. And the little things that they do for parents, the fact that on the 8th floor of the Connolly Center, there are sleeping facilities and showers for parents. Now, I know COVID rules might have changed things, but there's a lounge for parents. There are people that will sit at your child's bedside if you have to run and take a shower. There has a child life department which works with the children, but in our case really worked with Ava a lot about the different diagnoses for Brian and what she was seeing. There's just so much about CHOP that you just you just can't compare that to anything else.
Exactly, and I had I have several fantastic doctors there, and
Hmm.
and there was one I had. We get a letter in the mail. She's going to University of Chicago. Are you kidding me? I'm basically near the end, if not already there, and we get the darn letter in the mail. Oh, she's moving. You have to have somebody else.
I thought you were going to say University of Penn, and I know a lot of times patients of CHOP will transfer care to University of Penn. I was going to say, oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm lucky. I'm glad I only had to have that one visit because of my appendix last year, and I don't want to see any more visits at any
I
more
know.
hospitals for a long time. Besides working at one, and that's sure when the when COVID clears the air there. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, so that's uh, and then I will get into my last remark. Question. You do work. Well, you don't work, but you help us out at the Field of Dreams with things like that. I know I've worked with your group over there, Faces, several organizations, and I will remind the viewers watching this. Faces, even though the telethon is, gosh, we're past a month. They still need your donations. We're still in a pandemic. COVID is still going on. People are becoming vaccinated.
Hmm.
We faces need your help. Please donate. There is a number. Uh, 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 the website, Venmo is still active, I believe. Uh, and so many other sources, Facebook, you name it, it's here. I will keep doing these interviews so you hear the stories of
Hmm.
what it takes to be a parent every every day, different challenges, because word needs to be put out there about these programs.
And I think what you said is so important about the pandemic. Last year, so we do the 31-day walk. We walk a mile a day for CHOP over May. And then we fundraise while we do that. And last year, oh my goodness, it was the biggest blessing. In the middle of a pandemic, our team raised the most we ever had. We raised $4,100. And because it's a lot, right? Because
Wow, wow, that's great.
I'm telling you, we're always grateful for anything that we can raise for CHOP, but we were uncertain with the pandemic and people's financial situations, how that would work. But we found that people were needing something. They wanted to do something in the midst. We were only 6 weeks into the pandemic at that time, but
Right.
we usually choose the endocrine department for the money that we raise. You can choose during the 31-day walk.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
where
Where?
it goes, yeah. But
Yeah.
last year and this year, we chose something called the Children's Fund. So just like you're saying for faces, same thing for CHOP. The Children's Fund allows the money to go to the greatest need of the hospital. And we just felt like I don't know how to run a hospital. And if they decide in this pandemic that they need that $4,000 for something else, I want them to be able to use it that way. Same thing as for faces, there is needs that come up that are unprecedented that these funds can go to.
Exactly. Because just like I'm still a part of the Faces team the after the telethon, they asked me if I would stay, and I said surely. And even though the telethon is history,
Mhm.
we still need money. Faces is still running programs despite all the restrictions, despite the reopenings that are happening, which I'm very happy that the world is coming back to some some normal.
Yeah, sure. Something
Yeah,
like
sure. Why not? So, because it's been too long, and I will go back to the education standpoint of this. Like they told us, oh, it'll be six weeks. All right, thank you. 6 weeks, and six 6 weeks have come and gone, and where'd that 6 weeks go? Six
yeah.
weeks. That's history. So.
Mhm.
So yeah, they need your faces needs the money. Shop needs the money. If you would like more information, facesforautism.org. Uh, do you have? I know you have social media all over the world, all over the place. But do you have a website?
We don't have a website. We use our page primarily just for advocacy and for we are so blessed to have so many people who want to, keep up with Brian and keep up with our family that we felt like a public page was the best way to do that instead of intermingling like our personal Facebook with that. So we have South 3 Strong um on Facebook and on Instagram. And, it's a pipe dream of mine to have a 501c3, a nonprofit. But as of right now, we're just sticking with our social media channels and kind of just working on advocacy.
Hey, there you go. Because to you, it's like we have enough going on. You want to start a 501. It's but
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a long process, but it's always a dream of mine. That way people could donate directly to us and then we could put it out in the community where we see fit. But we just, that I feel like you have to do that very authentically and you have to be very specific about where the need is in your community. And until I'm comfortable pinning all that down, we're sticking with advocacy and
there
fundraising for others right now.
there you go. Stick with it that way because,
Yeah.
and I will stop.